Hey friend, welcome back to Bible Tract Echoes. I'm Micah McCurry. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. I'm so very grateful. I'm honestly, it's a pleasure that I get to speak to you. And I hope the pleasure is not all mine. I hope you enjoy this broadcast as well. I've recently heard from some of the kindest people that have reached out and said what a blessing this broadcast is to them. And if you're one of those folks, thank you so much. I can't tell you what an encouragement it was to me to hear those kind words. I was recently had the opportunity to listen in to some of my very first broadcasts. Went back in the archives and listened. It was just about almost 4 years ago now. And to think of how far I've come and what I put some of you through. Goodness, maybe, just so we can all have a chuckle, I'll have to play some of those previous broadcasts in the coming days. We'll see about that. But in all seriousness, it makes me think in another 4 years, 5, 10, what will I think of myself now, then? Well, for those of you that are listening right now, regardless, I want to say thank you. Speaking of testimonies of God's goodness, I'd like to share a couple with you. We have the opportunity a few times a year to look back at our newsletter and to thank God for all He's done. There truly is no limit to how we could thank God or even speak about the love of God. What was it? The artist that said, the penman said, if every stalk on earth were a quill, if the sky of parchment were made, if the ocean were made of ink, were filled with ink, and every man a scribe by trade, we still could not tell the love of God. What a beautiful song that is, but I do love hearing from God's people, hearing about what God has done. Here's Melvin from California says this. A couple of days ago, I was driving in Gilroy, California. I saw a truck that had BTI on it and nothing else. No address, phone number, email address, no other contact information. Since this was in Gilroy, California, kind of far from Odell, Illinois, I highly doubted that this was related to Bible Tracts Incorporated, and I wanted to take a picture of the truck, but since I was by myself and couldn't stop anywhere, I couldn't take the picture. Let me pause here. Melvin, thank you for not wrecking trying to take a picture. That would have saddened us greatly. Later, I looked up on the internet what else could have been BTI, found a few other organizations and whatnot, including the name of a bacteria, a truck company, and even a tobacco company, among other things. We're not related to the tobacco company, you can rest assured, Melvin. In any event, when I saw the truck, it reminded me of Bible Tracts Incorporated. Perhaps it was God's way of reminding me that I should give a donation to Bible Tracts Incorporated in order to continue providing tracts throughout the world. Melvin from California. Melvin, thank you for that. In all seriousness, it gave me a chuckle, but also what a blessing, and your donation always greatly appreciated. We often say donations are, though they are not required, they may be recommended, and they are always greatly appreciated to allow our ministry to continue on through people like you, Melvin. Truly, it's a blessing. Christine from Wisconsin says this. Hello, I would just like to thank you for the monthly report letter I got in the mail. And she refers back to one from earlier this year. And she says in that letter, it had a barcode, a QR code to listen to stories of people who were saved by tracts. I donate to Bible Tracts Inc. monthly, and I pass out tracts at gas stations and in my neighborhood. I've been doing this for about 2 years, and sometimes I wonder if this is all really worth it. I was so encouraged after hearing their stories not to give up. Thank you for sharing and encouraging me to continue handing out Bible tracts. It is worth it. Truly, it is worth it. That reminds me, the other day, while I was in Kenya, God laid on my heart a thought, laid on my heart just something that was just burrowed in and squeezed my soul. There was a picture of a man that I had the privilege of taking. Maybe if you're watching on YouTube, we'll put it up over the screen so you can see it and whatnot, but maybe you'll need to go to Facebook and look it up. But picture of a man in Kenya. His name is David. He's a pastor. He pastors on Mount Elgon. the second highest peak. He doesn't pasture on the peak, of course, but it's a 14,000-foot peak, and he's on the slopes of Mount Elgon, a small village. I've talked about this a little bit previously. But that question of is it worth it? He's looking up at the preacher. I was sitting behind the preacher on the platform, a small dirt church, a dirt floor. The platform was 6 inches high, just more dirt. The building was made out of, if I recall, mud and sticks and stones. A tin roof, I think. He was looking up, his son in his lap. Shadrach is his son's name. Little bright boy, smart, as they say over there, smart boy, handsome boy. His son is looking at the translator, but David is looking at the missionary preaching with eyes just so intense. And it brought to mind these words as I snapped the picture. And this picture, they say, is worth 1,000 words, but it just squeezes my soul. I think it's worth more than that. To me, it says this. I said this, I should say. This is Pastor David. He lives in a tiny mountain village on the slopes of Mount Elgon. He and his precious wife, Karen, minister to the small church God has entrusted to his care here in Kenya. I met this dear man of God while in Kenya just a few days ago. He is just one of many I met, but he made quite an impression on me. Do you see, or can you imagine, for those of you listening on the radio, can you imagine the hunger in Pastor David's eyes? Can you imagine how thirsty he is for the Bible truths that are being preached by my friend, Baji Bob DeWitt? When I look at his eyes, I see an intensity I'm ashamed to admit I seldom have. It appears to me, in the short time I've known Pastor David, and you could tell by this picture, I believe, he is raising his children. His oldest is Joy, then Gracious, then Shadrach, who's in the picture with him, and Anna, his youngest. He's raising them in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Can you imagine, can you think about Shadrach's little eyes? Little boy, 2, maybe 3, his eyes locked onto the translator. The translator is translating the message into Swahili, and Shadrach is too young to understand the country's second language, English, so he looks at the man he understands. If you ever wondered why take a missions trip, or why support your church's missions program, or why support a ministry like Bible Tracts Incorporated, or maybe you've even questioned the grand scheme of things, is it all really worth it? To me, this picture and this thought answers those questions. This pastor that works outside of the church does not support him enough, I should say. He works outside of the church to make enough money. We're talking less than a couple $100 a month to support his family. This thought, this picture answers those questions and any others you may have. The answer is yes. Yes, it's worth it. If you'd like that picture, I just realized instead of you having to try apps all over the place, of course, you could go to YouTube and see it, and we'll put it up over the screen while I'm talking about this. But if you'd like that picture, you can text me. I'll send you that direct picture. You can see it. See Pastor David and his son, Shadrach. Text me at 309-316-7240. Again, that number is 309-316-7240. It reminds me, as we talk about, is it worth it? I wrote here in this newsletter this as well. I was going to skip over it, but I believe the Lord's led me to it, especially since Christine, Wisconsin mentioned that giving monthly. At BTI, our heart beats with a mission to provide quality gospel tracts for Christians across America and the world. Each day, we hear stories of lives touched and souls won for Christ, and these testimonies serve as a reminder, a daily reminder of the power of the written word. But the reality remains. This mission is made possible through the support of people like you. And, as with all things, consistency is key. It's key in your daily life. It's key in your spiritual life. It's key in ministry. And as we look ahead, we are prayerfully seeking partners who feel led to commit as monthly donors. Having a consistent foundation of monthly support ensures that the message of Christ continues to reach hands and hearts without interruption. Think of it as sowing seeds each month, knowing the harvest will be great. If you're not already a monthly donor, a monthly supporter, a monthly partner, I'd ask you to consider joining this foundational group. Your monthly commitment, regardless of size, will make a substantial and enormous impact. As we anticipate all that God has in store and pray for his continued blessings, we recognize the need for consistent support should the Lord tarry his coming. To become a monthly donor, there's many different ways. The announcer at the end of the program will tell you how you can contact us. But if you'd like me to tell you how personally, you can text me. I'll give you that number one more time. I realize we've talked about prayer. We asked for a lot this week. Prayer, money, all those types of things. But friend, while we are so incredibly blessed, I'll be honest with you, this may sound cliche and this may sound, I hope it comes across the way I mean it. I don't want to steal all the blessing. Me personally, I'm a monthly supporter of Bible Tracts Incorporated. Not just in my time, not just my prayers, but financially as well. And I'm so blessed for it. I hope you will be as well. You can text me at 309-316-7240. I've got something important I want to talk to you about tomorrow. I'm looking forward to speaking to you about it. It has to do with a mistake we made. We made a massive error recently. I say massive, it makes it sound so bad. We made just a small technical thing happened and caused a problem. I want to tell you about that tomorrow and how we dealt with it and how the Lord's blessed in spite of that. It's not, I say massive, it's not a massive error. I've overstated the case. I don't mean to be clickbaity. Tune in tomorrow. I'll tell you what happened. We've already rectified it. It's already water under the bridge and everything is good. And the response has been so much of a blessing. But I'm excited to share that with you tomorrow, how a small mistake can become a blessing of God. Thank you for tuning in today. My prayer, as always, is that you have a wonderful day, a great day for his glory as we approach the end of the year. Please know that I'm praying for you to have a great year coming up as well. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in tomorrow. We'll talk about a small mistake turning into a great blessing. God bless.